What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show, and in this video, we're going to be talking about when court goes wrong. Hey, Joe, what's going on, man? Hey, how court go? Everything go all right? Yeah, when court goes wrong, I have certainly seen that happen a time or two. And you know, when thinking about what shirt to wear for this video, I couldn't have thought of a better one than this right here, featuring old Henry Hill from Goodfellas that says, "Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut." Though in the movie Goodfellas, Henry Hill wouldn't end up doing any of this. In fact, at the end of the movie, he would testify against everybody he knew and end up going into witness protection. So I'm really not sure what they were going for with this t-shirt. But you know, everything written on this t-shirt certainly brings up a good point, such as certain do's and don'ts pertaining to the courtroom. And though these two things written here are certainly things you shouldn't do, however, there are a lot of people who do go into the courtroom doing exactly opposite of all of this. There are other things to keep in mind as well, such as when you go into the courtroom, you never want to make the judge mad or the prosecutor, especially if the reason you're in there in the first place is because you're facing some time. You also might want to go in there being quiet and respectful, and also dressed in a way that would be considered appropriate attire to wear inside of the courtroom. Meaning that you definitely don't want to walk into the courtroom wearing a t-shirt like this so the judge can look at you like, "You know that shirt right there is going to be the reason I send you to prison, right? Your Honor, what shirt?" But you know, it's any of these things that I've just mentioned, as well as probably about a million other things, that can cause court to go not exactly the way that you hoped that it might. And in this video, we're going to look at some absolutely insane situations of when court goes wrong. This first story that I want to share with you, though I have never personally done this myself, I have to admit that there has been many a time that I've been in the courtroom and I've wanted to do exactly what the guy in this video is about to do.
Immediately after pleading guilty, he pleaded guilty to 5 counts of robbery. That Columbus guy sprinted out of the courtroom. At least he didn't steal anything from there.
Yeah, there's been many a time when I myself have definitely wanted to make a break for it and try like all hell to not only run but also escape from the courtroom. But most any time that I've ever been in a courtroom, I've usually been in shackles and handcuffs. So me trying to make a run for it, I mean, I'm probably not gonna get that far. And I'm quite certain that the man in this video, he didn't get that far neither. This guy had just gotten done pleading guilty to 5 counts of robbery. And I'm guessing as this guy was being escorted back to the jail, he must have had a little change of heart. Did I just plead guilty to 5 counts of robbery, man? I'm gonna be in here. And again, though I have never done this myself, God knows I've certainly thought about doing this. I have heard of guys trying to do this even in those handcuffs in shackles, and they, just like the guy in this video, didn't make it very far either. But I'm gonna go ahead and give you my expert opinion as to what I think happened in this situation. You see, the first thing that we notice as this guy is being led back into the jail is that he's wearing street clothes, meaning that this guy was not locked up prior to going into this courtroom and pleading guilty to these 5 counts of robbery. So this makes me think that maybe this guy thought he was gonna be able to walk into this courtroom, plead guilty, and then walk out of there under his own free will. Maybe he was thinking that he would come back at a later court date to then be sentenced. However, if that's what he was thinking, he was certainly in for a surprise as they slapped those handcuffs on him and began to escort him back to the jail. And I'm thinking it was right then, as he was being escorted back to that jail, that he realized he made a major mistake. I should have never pled guilty to this. What was I thinking? He must have been thinking that an attempted escape charge was worth the risk, because there's no way in this guy actually thought that he was gonna get away. I mean, who's actually gonna be able to run and escape out of the courtroom? They got guards and police everywhere. Where do you think you're really gonna run to? This next story I want to share with you about things going wrong inside of the courtroom. This takes place in Michigan back in March of 2016. It also involves a 21-year-old man by the name of Brian Taylor, who was in court for his sentencing after previously being found guilty of unlawful imprisonment, which is basically like kidnapping, and also possession of a concealed weapon. In fact, Brian Taylor was arrested when police recognized him as he was struggling with another man over a gun that he was holding at that other man's stomach. Maybe when the police recognized him, they were like, "Isn't that guy Brian Taylor we've been looking for? He's got all those felony warrants right there. Why he wrestling with that other guy with that gun pointed at that man's stomach? Woo! Woo! Woo!" I mean, there have been some cases that I've been arrested personally where the police have actually tried to run through me with their police car. So it is plausible that's how it went down. Not only had Brian Taylor just been found guilty of unlawful imprisonment and possession of a concealed weapon, but he was also on probation. So he was definitely facing a violation as well. But it was while at his sentencing court date that Brian Taylor must have thought he was going to have to do something super impactful to really reach the judge. And hopefully with that, might help the judge to realize this guy's not that bad of a guy after all.
You know, that's why I wrote a song.
I just gotta say this first and foremost, I have never seen anybody go to sentencing, and when the judge asks you, do you have any final words you'd like to say to the court before I impose my sentence? And then with that, whoever is about to be sentenced just breaks out singing.
Hello there, Your Honor, I wanna say I'm sorry for the things I've done, and I try and be stronger in this life I chose, but I want you to know that door I closed.
I'm sorry. I'm not crying because of how emotionally charged that performance this guy put on inside of the courtroom was. I'm crying because of the fact that I realized this is probably gonna have little to zero effect on what is about to happen to this guy. Now real quick, what this video that went absolutely dumb viral doesn't show you is that after he gets done singing his remix to some Adele song, he then goes on to ask the judge to consider the low end of his sentencing guidelines, which are 32 months.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
I guess when you're sitting in the courtroom facing an ass load of time and you have no other options at all, it's time to pull out all the stops. And you know, it really makes me think that when I went to my sentencing, where I would end up getting 7 years, and the judge asked me if I had any final words I'd like to say before he sentenced me, I probably should have done the same damn thing. Your Honor, I'm sorry. Boy, you about to get yourself a life sentence singing that provocative tune inside my courtroom. A life sentence, boy. Life sentence. I'm not exactly sure if Brian Taylor was looking for a record deal inside of the courtroom or leniency, but if it was the latter, that certainly wouldn't be the case. Because though he would go on to ask the judge to consider the low end of his sentencing guidelines, 32 months, the judge just wasn't going for that. And he ended up sentencing Mr. Taylor to up to 17 years in prison. Maybe the judge just isn't a fan of Adele. So you know, it's quite obvious with these stories we've discussed thus far, there's certain things that you really should not do inside of the courtroom. You definitely don't want to go running off trying to escape from the courthouse. You definitely don't want to be trying to serenade or sing to the judge. And you most certainly don't want to do what this next guy did. This next story takes place in South Florida back in 2008, and it involves a 25-year-old gang member by the name of James Harold, who had just been found guilty of murdering 2 people in a Dunkin' Donuts robbery. And with that, this guy was also facing the death penalty. Now, you know, thankfully, I've never found myself in a situation as severe as what James Harold was facing. But I can imagine that if in that situation, you would be trying to do everything that you possibly could to avoid getting the most extreme punishment you could get inside of a courtroom. However, in James Harold's situation, that just wouldn't be the case at all. In fact, this guy would actually go on to dare the judge to give him the death penalty.
Go ahead and do what you're gonna do. Pretty much, you know what I mean? I'm pretty much daring you to give me the death sentence, pretty much.
You know, there's a lot of things you shouldn't do inside of the courtroom, and this is definitely one of them. Daring the judge to do anything. Go ahead and give me the death penalty. You ain't gonna do it. I dare you to. Now, allegedly, the reason this guy was daring the judge to do this is because he said he wasn't the trigger man. Supposedly, his role in this was telling another gang member that he had to do it. And with that, he felt that if the judge did give him the death penalty, he'd be able to appeal it. And well, that's exactly what the judge gave him. The story says that as this sentence was being handed down, James Harold just sat in the courtroom absolutely emotionless. The story says that his mother burst into tears as the judge read this sentence. And you know, at first I couldn't understand why this guy would be daring the judge to do this in the first place. And then when the judge actually did it, he was able to just sit in the courtroom so emotionless. I didn't understand this at first until I did a little further digging and realized this guy already had 9 consecutive life sentences for a string of other Dunkin' Donuts robberies that he had already been convicted of. So you know, maybe with that, this guy was feeling like his life was already over. This last story that I want to share with you about things going wrong inside the courtroom took place back in 2013. And this story definitely illustrates what I had mentioned at the beginning of this video, that whole having respect inside of the courtroom, especially for the judge. But this story takes place in Miami and involves an 18-year-old female by the name of Penelope Soto. who had been locked up for drug possession charges. And while going to video court, meaning she was in the jail talking to the judge via a TV screen, it's obvious that things didn't go her way, and she got a little upset about that and decided that while walking away from that TV screen, she was gonna go ahead and flip the bird to the judge. So we're gonna go ahead and use a little NFL play calling to describe this situation. So first we can see Penelope Soto right here giving zero fucks as she runs an out route. But the judge right here, he was set up in zone defense and he was able to read this play all the way. The judge would end up calling Penelope Soto back to stand in front of that TV monitor where he would tell her she just got herself a fresh 30 days in county lockup. And it's right here again we see Penelope Soto probably realizing as she's about to walk back to the jail, the judge just hit her with a user sack, and flipping him off probably wasn't the right thing to do. The crazy damn thing about it is she would only end up serving 5 days in jail before issuing an emotional apology to the judge. I can't even imagine what that would be. I'm so sorry. Yeah, an emotional apology. And because of that, the judge would end up letting her go. And when she would end up coming back to court, it says that her demeanor was a complete 180, says that it looked like she really cleaned herself up and she was trying to do better with her life. So kudos to her for that. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about it. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted, nor ever find yourself in a situation inside of a courtroom where things could go wrong, and make the most of every day. Peace!